Hello, hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Aanchal, and I must admit I am slightly nervous to be here today. Very ironic I say that because I've built my entire career over the last 8 years talking in front of thousands of people, but today is different. For the first time in many, many, many years, I'm here not to talk about a personality, a sport, an event, nothing but myself, my story, my principles, my values. You know, this feeling sends me back to the 6-year-old Aanchal, who was very shy, awkward, nervous, could not speak in front of anyone at all, ever, let alone speak in front of a crowd. And that very little girl made the decision to become an anchor, the career I am pursuing at the moment. So my journey up until this point is my story, and I must tell all of you, it is not very black and white. So it all started when I lost my dad at the age of 6 through a long battle with cancer. What followed was shifting of houses, shifting of schools, losing out all my old connections, old friends, my old identity, a sense of who I was. As I knew, dad had been my compass, my safety net, my anchor, my faith, my life growing up, and not having him around somewhere forced me with the need of finding that compass within. I just did not know how yet. Till that one day, that very one day, my mom brought me to a pool very close to my house, and I saw people swim. I wanted to do what they were doing. It seemed very exciting. So just by mimicking what I saw around me, I swam for hours at end. Days turned into weeks, turned into months. Till one day, my mom came to pick me up, and parents at the pool told her, "Listen, your daughter is really good. You should send her to competitions." My mom had no idea I even knew how to swim yet. She saw me swim that day and she knew an athlete was born. Months turned into years. I had already become a national swimmer. And I also pursued wushu and athletics, also represented my state in nationals for these two sports. Sports became a very integral part of my life, obviously, because it taught me a fundamental aspect of life. The very conscious, innate ability to take all your attention, all your focus, all your energy into the present moment and resulting in action that comes out of pure awareness. By immersing myself in something I absolutely loved, I understood the concept of awareness itself. And after a point, it literally felt like a hack. Even though for bursts or moments, I could tune in all my energy and attention into the moment and bring the best of myself. So I felt, why not translate this hack from one activity to the other, one skill to the other? Oration, plays, music, and even academia came from it. So at this point, I had my strength and I understood how to tune in. If only now I knew what to do with it. I was still very aimless, directionless in life. I did not know what career I wanted to pursue. I did not know sports as a career was even an option. I was too far from answering that question, to be honest. So without any logic, without any inclination, without any passion, I did what everyone does. I decided to pursue engineering. Yes, that's what I did. I pursued engineering without any sight, without any thought. And before I understood, 4 long, arduous years of engineering had begun, and so had my quarter life crisis. What followed was 3 long years after that, was 3 long years of a corporate career with a Big Four as a data analyst. On paper, my life seemed great. You know, I had a great job with a Big Four. I had a great set of friends, a social circle, comforts in life. But honestly, deep down, I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy at all. If at all, I was very unfulfilled. I lived by each day with a constant ache of being farther and farther from my inner reality. But what was my inner reality? Well, there was only one way to find out, and so I did. After 3 long years of corporate slavery, I decided to put my papers down and pursue my passion, pursue who I was on the inside. I realized I wanted to interact with people, communicate with people, understand perspective, grow my horizons, and grow as a human being. I wanted to become an anchor, and so I did. I booked a one-way ticket to Bombay, a city where I did not know anybody, and I started a life from scratch, which came with a new career, a new set of social circle, new belief system, a newfound sense of freedom. I worked as a TV presenter. I hosted events for corporate, live events for fashion, wellness, music. I even won awards as a presenter, dabbled in some acting projects here and there. Honestly, I had a lot of fun. For the first time, I felt my life had purpose, it had passion. My inner reality was constantly evolving. Even in a fast paced city like Bombay, I managed to find a pace slow enough to give me the stillness, to give me the peace, to introspect, retrospect into the person I had been, the person I wanted to be, who I was, expand my perspectives, constantly communicate with people, see the perspective they held deep within, instead of the perspective they wanted to show me through words or actions. And how does one do that? Through observing, through love, through respect, by asking the right questions. I realized who I was becoming into a person was also building me as a communicator simultaneously. Because I felt I finally found the courage to present my inside on the outside without the fear of judgment, without walls of insecurity. Every downfall, every challenge, every moment of insecurity, anxiousness, moments that feel out of syllabus, sort of felt like full-blown opportunities life had presented to me to fundamentally redesign who I was as a person. I finally felt free within. And with this freedom came the realization that I finally got to the point where I wanted to be, what I initially set out to before I became an anchor. Where my insights had found a way to come on the outside without fear. I finally got beyond my flight and fight. Of course, I made mistakes, I made many mistakes, but I made sure I did not allow these small mistakes to ruin the possibility of a beautiful future I was yet to create. I did not let my flight and fight make me believe this was the end of the world. I learned from my mistakes, I moved on and created some great things in the process. With this realization came the proverbial itch. The itch which was very reminiscent from 10 years ago, that itch which made me want to grow, that yearned me to expand, which what I wanted to grow my perspective, shed my existing filters of reality and see more, experience more, live more. But how does one get to do that? Very important question. I realized the communicator I had become would be the tool going into this next chapter of my life. But who I was fundamentally as a person would be the very backbone of it. All that I had understood through life and its experiences would be the very foundation of my professional career. I'm a firm believer of the fact there's a fine line between talking about our experiences and preaching. And I do not believe you can preach and teach without significant credibility. Even though life taught me what it did, I knew in order to do something with that knowledge legitimately, I needed credibility on paper, for which I decided to pursue education. Through education, not only would I get the credibility I desire, but also the knowledge to get into the jargons of psychology, philosophy of mind, the sciences that drive the brain and the very cognitive aspects of it. I would like to study, research, teach the very fine cracks between all these disciplines that lead to the cognition, perception, and awareness of it all. And maybe heading towards my final career transition. I don't know when will I be able to do this. I don't know how will I be able to do this given the uncertainty and unpredictability around me, the affairs of the world at large. One thing I know for sure that my deepest faith happens to be my only guiding light. And it tells me very loud and clear that somehow life will find a way to integrate my next reality seamlessly into my existing life puzzles. It's very strange that the society in India forces kids to understand, uncover their entire lives in their adolescence years. I mean, it's really strange. How can someone have the awareness of the experiences they're yet to have? As a 34-year-old today, what I know today is a sum total of the experiences I've had so far. I had to go through all the motions of being an athlete, being a corporate employee, a presenter, to actually land at this junction in my life where all these variables forming various frames and fragments of my life and its evolutionary scale had to bring me to this point to go to the next chapter of my life. I couldn't have cut this journey short. I couldn't have done it any other way. This was the only way. You know, the society really makes me believe that the concept of career transitions is unsafe, it's vague, it's unstructured. But let's face it, what sort of growth has ever come out of safety or stagnancy? You know, growth is where we find the courage to break through our existing filters of perception. We create paths where none existed before. We have the courage to pursue our happiness, our deeper fulfillment over the norms of fitting in. You need the courage to break these existing stereotypes of normalcy. Because let's face it, what is normal anymore? Do any of us know that? What is normal anymore? Who is normal? And most importantly, who can tell you what your normal is? The answer is nobody. I believe we've reached a time where everybody belongs to so many varied ends of the spectrum that the idea of normalcy is starting to seem quite passé. We've reached times where boundaries are blurring between what's real, what's not, between what's normal, what's not. If at all, you're breaking the confines of black and white and heading into the gray. So the point is, there is no normal anymore. You are your normal, and let's not have anyone convince you otherwise ever. You know, in a world where free will can be considered redundant, because let's face it, what is going to happen will happen anyway, right? We can't interject the existing forces of nature. But what we can do is live freely. We can live freely by living with absolute integrity to ourselves, where our insides are in absolute synchronicity with who we are on the outside while we are going through the inevitable. I think that's the highest form of freedom we can achieve as human beings, right? In a world like today where we look for all our answers on the internet, let's try and find some answers within. In a world where AI can almost replicate anything, let's focus on those fundamental aspects of life that AI cannot touch. Intention, vulnerability, honesty, emotion, consciousness. You know, the last couple of months have been very haphazard. I've gone through my highest of highs, lowest of lows, made some really tough decisions, but they all felt really right. And fortunately, I'm blessed to have a mother who understands the randomness that I come with as a person, and she supported me through all of this. But I'll be honest, the timing of all of this just feels too surreal, because that's the exact time I got invited to do this TEDx, and I knew this is serendipitous, right? What else is it about? I literally get to talk about my hardest journey in that moment itself as I'm going through it in the present moment. I'm standing here today, honestly, sharing my story, honoring that same 6-year-old Aanchal who felt everything, observed everything, saw everything, remembered everything, but could not express any of it. For years, I couldn't cry. For years, I couldn't laugh. And my gift to that little girl was to live a life lived completely, love fully, laugh uncontrollably, dwell in sorrow, fall, get up, take chances, surrender, explore, believe in myself, and in the process of which allow myself to explore all these frames and fragments of me which were earlier lying in the shadows. I wanted to live it all, experience it all, and not let myself come within my experience of myself and my reality. So as I'm standing here today talking to all of you, I can only hope my story can spark some semblance of inspiration in one or any of you today. Because believe me, that's all I can do. I can't tell you what your truth is. I can't tell you what is the life you're meant to live or how is it you're supposed to live the life you're meant to live. All I can tell you is that I followed my truth and you need to follow yours. All you got to do is tune in. Thank you.